Hey, Melissa.
Hi there, Andrea. How are you doing?
Doing
Can you
good,
hear me
thanks.
okay?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah, yeah.
Good, good.
Thank you. Are you?
Yeah,
How are you?
doing okay. It's been pretty cold here the past couple of weeks, but it's one thing about Colorado though is the weather changes pretty sporadically, so it's very nice today. Might even get up to 60 or something. It's well, that doesn't mean anything to you. 60 Fahrenheit. I can.
Nice.
Hey, Mark.
Hello.
Hey,
Daisy.
hello, Andrea. Good morning.
Good morning, Daisy. Hi.
Yeah, that is better.
Is anyone planning to be and being in Paris for KubeCon? I know you are, Melissa.
Yes, absolutely.
No, when is KubeCon Paris?
Yeah,
In
it's
it.
March
Hmm,
19th,
cool.
20th.
Oh, yeah.
I'm getting ready to leave for Brussels Wednesday. FOSDEM. Yes.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool.
That's fun. Sharing the notes. Hello, Alan. Hi, Emil.
Hello.
And Steve and Tracy. Hi.
Hi there.
Hey, guys and ladies.
Hi.
Okay, let me start sharing the link to the notes. Mhm. Everyone. Okay, I guess it's 3 past. Maybe we should get started. Okay. So welcome everyone to this TOC meeting. I shared the link to the notes, and I hope I marked everyone in the attendees list. But if not, if I missed you, please add yourself. So a few things on the agenda today. So, but first, we have some exciting governing board updates. Probably already all aware that Easy joined the governing board as chair and Mark as treasurer. So welcome both of you, and thanks a lot for stepping up to the role. And yeah, and looking forward to work with you in the governing board as well. And thanks for being here today. Okay, one thing Roxanne asked me to share. So the blog post for the community awards is live. Let's open it briefly. So this year at the CDCon in Seattle, we're going to have CDF Community Awards as usual, and we have some CDF awards as well as project awards. Yeah, so nominations are open. So please don't restrain yourself. Go ahead and nominate someone in the various category. And if you're in touch with any other project, please to reach out to the respective communities as well. Right. I have some more updates on the ambassador program. So we had some initial conversations with Michelle, Roxanne, and we're going to have a conversation together with Garima as well. So the status as for now is that we don't have a cohort yet. And basically we want to do some chat first on how we want the ambassador program to look like for 2024. But one thing that came out of some initial conversation I was having with Garima is that it would be good to have more sync, more conversation happening between the ambassador program and the technical community and the TOC in general, so that the ambassadors are aware of what the projects are doing, what updates are there, what the TOC is doing, and they can then hopefully do an even better job as ambassador in bringing the updates and news out there. Just pause for a moment. Is there anything anyone would like to discuss or propose or ask about this?
Well, I just would like to understand what they do too. I reached out to Garima as well. She didn't really respond to my request for a meeting. So if you are setting up a meeting with her, that would be, I mean, I would love to be a fly on the wall in that meeting, because I am super concerned about that as well. And once I I'm trying to get the lay of the land overall, and this is, you know, and Mark, you're aware of, because I mentioned this before, you know, I really want to understand what all the different groups are trying to do, how they're being led, what their goals are, to figure out how to help everybody reach those goals. Yeah. So yeah, if you do get a meeting scheduled, I'd love to join.
Absolutely, thanks. Yeah, I'll tell Michelle. I think she was reaching out to Garima to set up a meeting, so I'll ask her to include you as well. Cool. Next, I had the workshop working group. As you might have seen, the working group has a new lead, Saim Safta. And yeah, I just put here a link to the workshop page. And there is a form to propose a workshop. This is as it used to be in the past. So if you know someone who's interested in proposing a workshop for the CDF, please send them to this page. And same was so nice to share his Calendly link on Slack. So if you want to get to know him, have a chat with him, go ahead and book a meeting with him on his calendar. Right. Any question, comments on this? Okay, next, the end user council. So I've been trying to capture a little bit all the groups here. Unfortunately, for the end user council, we don't have updates so far in 2024. We discussed this at the last governing board meeting, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And I think Michelle said she would reach out to Jer, either her or Lori, yeah, to basically see what the status is, if Jer is still interested in running the end user council, yeah, or if we should find someone else to do that. And okay, so the other thing that I wanted to bring up, also from the conversations during the last governing board meeting, is that CDF needs more members. and more budget. So which is not a big surprise. And so, yeah, I just wanted to raise a question. If anyone has ideas, what we can do from the TOC side to help with that. And I think, so I put a couple of things there, like technical initiatives that we could have to make CDF more attractive to members. And the other thing is, of course, attract new projects, because I think having projects in the CDF means that companies backing those projects have more interest in joining the foundation as well. So last year we discussed about the project member benefit. So we have a page in our website with a list of benefits, and maybe that's needs to be refreshed a bit. So maybe that's something that we can pick up this year again and make sure that the information we have in this is up to date. Yeah, and I wanted to pause here again and see if anyone had comments or ideas they would like to share on this.
I'm just gonna go start knocking on doors. And so I have a lot of the information from last year about, you know, our objectives and the mission statement. This will definitely help. What I'm interested in understanding, especially from this group, is how do you want to position yourself? What benefits do you want to get out of it? I've talked to several of you individually, but not everyone on this call. I would love to do that, set up some time to have those conversations. It will help me kind of figure out how to build community around what we're trying to do. I started to reach out to a gentleman named Jacob Green, and he has this idea of connected OSPOs. So things like having, you know, grad students to do research and work on projects and like really be integrated with what we're trying to do. But the question that I have for the group is, as the CD Foundation, is our goal to be, you know, the knowledge base for all things continuous delivery? And if that is the case, then are we doing this by just attracting products, or are we doing this by, you know, researching and understanding the space in a way that we can do more things like CD events, where people in the space with us are going, oh, here's something we can solve because we know that there's a problem here, or oh, here's how we can connect these other pieces together. Because that's the conversation I want to be able to have in the community to draw people in. Like, we're doing these things, you need to get involved, or you're going to get left behind, or you're going to be impacted by this, you know, something that can be kind of jarring, that in the next couple of years, I can get people to go, no, I want to be a part of that. Whatever you guys are doing over there, you're building community. Because from my perspective, we need to build a space where we're engaging a greater audience, and that will help the vendors come and say, oh no, I want to be here because you're finding people who have problems that I can solve for them. And it's a complete message, not just, hey, we're a technical group and blah, 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 blah. Was that too much, guys, or?
No, those are all really good questions. So my feeling is that the CD Foundation needs to have a major rebranding, to be honest, and a new focus altogether. We're just not the shiny new object anymore, and we're getting duller as the months go by. And that's just a horrible fact, but it's the case. You know, what people are asking, what I hear the most, because I'm on, you know, I'm part of the Open SSF as well. And what we hear the most is, how do I add all the security tooling to my CD pipeline? And we are so, it's almost like the Open SSF is the CISO office trying to define standards and pumping out some scripts that they can add to their open source projects that developers may use. And we're over here, the DevOps engineers, not talking about that at all. So, you know, I feel like if we really want to re-engage and we really want to stir up the pot, I think that the CDF is going to have to undergo some kind of major rebranding. And those are just my thoughts. And I don't know what that would look like. I do know that we should be talking more about we probably should be talking more about DevSecOps and bring those conversations in. It's not an easy task to do that kind of major rebranding, but it may be the only solution, and it may be too late. I thought when I saw that the CDF was going to struggle when Tracy Miranda was the executive director, and we said, "Are we going to do a CDCon at KubeCon?" And she said, "No, but we are going to pay for a supply chain con." And from that moment on, the CDF started, in terms of interest, started losing its fire. So that's the reality of it. How we change that, I don't have an answer to it. I really don't. But nobody cares about continuous delivery anymore. Everybody's talking about supply chain management.
Yes, and I think you're actually hitting directly on what I'm concerned about too, is that it's not just the DevSecOps, it's also MLOps and data ops. Is why, like, being the group that researches how to do these things correctly and well and find the next set of products that are needed can be a space where we're still talking about continuous delivery, or at least in this sense of CI/CD, and maybe that's a part of that branding that has to happen as well.
It could be, absolutely. I've always been a huge fan of CD events because I felt like it has been it is a catalyst for us to really disrupt the way people are doing continuous delivery, and because right now, I've had this conversation many times, Mark. Well, I say it all the time. How do we go and update several million Jenkins workflows to include an SBOM?
Right.
And that's what has to be discussed. Those are the discussions we should be having. And so.
Right. And
So
that's why
yeah.
my idea for that was to turn like to academia who can do some research and not just because one of the things that I see in the conference talks that come in, it's a lot of companies saying, we solved this problem. Hey, let us talk to you about our problem that they solved. And that's great that they solved the problem for themselves. But how is that, relate to the rest of the community? And how are we getting that word out that someone's actually taking care of this information and trying to collect it all, understand it, research it, organize it, and quantify it in a way that says, okay, no, this is the next thing that's going to be super effective, or these are the features that should be added to what you're doing, and this is how you can do that effectively. CD events, if we can get it all the way to interoperability, will solve a lot of that, because then a lot of the pieces become drag and drop, but we still have a long way to go before we get there, and we're going to need the bodies and the interest to do that. But I agree with you in the sense that, from the CDF perspective, it did take a turn, but I don't think it's the end of it, because it's still at its foundation. We have, as long as Jenkins is around, I think we can do it, because everybody knows Jenkins, everybody understands where that's coming from, and to build on that foundation, I think will be super useful. And having everyone else like yourself here with their projects interested in doing the CD events portion of it is a major hit. We just have to get in the community, and that's something I think I can do, at least on the academia side, and bringing in some government interest to say, hey, how are you guys figuring out how to solve these problems for our security issues? I think all of that we can do as a group, but it's still going to be a lot of legwork and knocking on doors. And
I agree with you. I think Jenkins is our secret weapon, because there's so many people who, there's so many companies, and it's huge. It defines what CI/CD is. And maybe we can better leverage the Jenkins community, because at the same time as the CDF has sort of went to supply chain, CloudBees started walking away from their Jenkins community in what I perceived. So there's a better home for more end users to join the CDF. And maybe that's the angle for the CDF, is to get the end users in and get them talking to each other, especially around Jenkins. Maybe we shouldn't be doing a CDCon, maybe we should be doing a Jenkins world, right? I mean, why not? Nobody else is doing it. And, when DevOps world, when it was Jenkins world and it went from DevOps world, it started to slide because people were coming to meet the Jenkins the team and talk to each other about what they were doing, and had a lot of fun and excitement to it. And maybe that's where we get our ambassadors. So maybe we start focusing on the Jenkins community more.
And the other thing we need to kind of address is the muddying of supply chain and CI/CD. You know, it's supply chains, the software supply chains, the new thing, and it's basically taken over what people think of CI/CD and continuous integration. So I think we need to, when we look at how we reach out, we definitely have to explain our role in that process and why it's still needed.
To that point, I mean, it's interesting to me that they've added a new term, you know, because your supply chain security, where are you doing that supply chain security? You're doing it in your CI/CD pipeline.
Yes,
So
you're doing it in the
obviously,
build.
yeah.
But
I know. That's why I get frustrated.
I mean, we've gone through this for years. I mean, it used to be SCM, and then it was ALM, and then it was, you know, SDLC, and then, you know, all the different iterations that we've gone through. It's the same thing we've been doing with the software forever.
Right.
It's just new marketing around it, and I think we missed the boat on it.
Okay. Well, I think we need to make a sub and catch up.
So isn't our desire to broaden, to reach end users? And I think Dadizi is a representative of an end user organization, right? So for me, that's our reach to end users is a good thing. And let's look for ways to reach the end users. If inserting security checks into their CI or CD pipelines is a valuable thing, let's look to, all right, do we have people who are willing to fund development that would improve that? And for me, that's back to Dadizi's point of knocking on doors, right? Lots of door knocking, saying, hey, here's this concept. Your company would benefit from injecting regular checks into your standard processes. Would you like to fund that so that it could be used by others and improved by others in the open source community? The challenge there is finding the door to knock on to do that kind of funding. I don't see it magically happening without someone saying, we're going to put people on it. And the put people on it means money.
Yes, and to that point, I think you know, some of the things I'm tapping into are people who will benefit from this connection with the CDF, right? And so if there is like a network trust of CEOs who are, you know, pooling their resources to, like, you know, leverage finding other executives, right? You can use a source like that and say, hey, can I come talk to you guys about what we're doing over here? And by the way, I'm connected to a community of, you know, of DevOps folks and DevOps leaders that might solve some of your problems. And so it's not just finding the opportunities, but it's finding the opportunities where they're motivated to want to work with us in other ways.
So I might suggest that with the discussion we're having here, Dadizi, you might want to reach out to Arun, who's the chair of the OpenSSF board.
Arun and I are meeting Friday.
That's great. Perfect.
So
And-
like I said, I'm going to go knock on doors and, like, you know, it's got to come
Because
from the end users, right?
Well, because what just Mark said, you know, it does require funding. There may be some funding out of like the Alpha Omega project for building out some of this stuff. Just start with Jenkins, right? Just start with Jenkins.
And I'm
Or
gonna put
CD
Mark,
events, so everybody can use it, but let's solve it at least in one place.
so I'm gonna put Mark on the spot. And what would it take? Is it a small, medium, or huge effort to add like automatic SBOM generation to Jenkins for every workflow?
So for every workflow means you've got to touch every workflow. So that's a lot of
But-
people making a lot of changes.
But is there a way you could do it to the Jenkins core and have it done automatically for them?
Not really, because people really complain bitterly when you alter their workflows without telling them so.
Okay.
So they would there would be an uprising in the Jenkins community if we did such a thing of, how dare you, I will uninstall that plugin, that you have dared to do something you should never have done. So it has to be an intentional choice. Pipelines managed as code are managed as code specifically because they want exact control over what happens in that pipeline.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I would caution
curious.
against looking for like a magic bullet to like solve the security problem, because what we really need for the CDF is an active community. And I think an active community wanting to participate, wanting to, you know, solve their problems, wanting to talk about it, wanting to bring their issues in is more valuable to us long term than solving the SBOM thing next week. And my goal is to build sustainability, not just, you know, I do understand that we're under a crunch for funding, and I am going to do what I can to address that. But that also takes all of us saying, hey, here's an end user who I'm familiar with. You should talk to that IDC because he's trying to do something different. But I also need to get buy-in, you know, because doing something like making us a center where we can work with academia to solve these problems. I think that's a bit of a different approach than I'm seeing in the other foundations, where it's like, hey, we're a group of professionals trying to solve this problem, and we've done it in our company, and we're going to bring you our idea. But then company Y will do that, and then company Z will bring their idea, and so now you have competing products. But bringing academia together to say, okay, what's the best approach for these things, and show it with research and show that activity is more in line with, I think, what government expects to see in that area, so that like we can try and align ourselves with some of the government OSPOs and what their expectations are of the communities, and really just find a way to make us the expert in the space and let us be known as the experts in the space. And I think that will give us the sustainability to kind of catch up with some of the things that we slid behind. And I do understand that that's just my perspective, and that's why I'm talking about it to this group especially, so that I can get some feedback and understand, okay, where am I off? Like, what am I missing in this concept? But I do think for sustainability, we need a rich end user community.
So
And ironically, Jenkins has the biggest, richest end user community, so we should be able to leverage it, right? Mark's done a lot of that work for us.
right, well, and Jenkins does have a large community. There's lots to be gained by us doing that. I think that Dadisi, you hit a key point, that end user engagement is a big deal for CDF, right? And us bringing end users to CDF is an important story. I'm not still entirely clear how we bring them to CDF. I know how we bring them to Jenkins, right? I know what I need to do to bring them to Jenkins, but CDF is a bigger thing, and CDF has a bigger story to tell than just Jenkins, and the bigger story to tell doesn't always resonate with every person, every part of our story as CDF, right? It's, oh, I just need Jenkins. Thank you very much. I'll just use Jenkins. No, there's CD events is a good example, or Jenkins plus some other CD Foundation project. And now, oh, now that might motivate me to CDF, right? Where it's whatever thing I'm using, as soon as I add one more thing I'm using from CDF, now there's a better chance that I'm drawn to CDF as the unifying point for those two things.
So
CD
Mark,
event,
does Jenkins has a governing board, right?
we do, yes. I'm actually on it. Yeah. What motivates the question, Tracy? That's a good question, but what motivates
Well,
it?
the CDF, the OpenSSF makes a ton of money off of making people pay for those governing board seats.
Oh, no. Okay. So yeah, no, we haven't attempted to charge for membership on the Jenkins governing board. That's an interesting thought. I would expect people would come after me, maybe not with ropes, but would say that they strongly objected if I suggested such a thing.
Yeah,
Well, I'm sure, but they'll go after you with ropes if there's no support for Jenkins too.
Right. If we turn off Jenkins right now,
Yeah.
we're fortunate. The CD Foundation is a strong sponsor. CloudBeast is a strong sponsor. So you're right. If we had to say Jenkins will cease to exist if we don't find a way to generate more money, that might be the thing. Then okay, then in order to be on the board, you must purchase a board seat with this amount. I hadn't even
Well, there could be
considered that.
something else we could do. We could create like a Jenkins roundtable or something that that is for a leadership role of end users that the CDF is promoting, and it's part of that.
Right.
And it costs something to get onto that board. I mean, we can be as flexible as we want to, right? To encourage end users to join. And it may not be a whole lot of money. Maybe it's, it's just above a premier level. They have to join the Linux Foundation plus another 10K, right? And then they get to be on the advisory board for Jenkins.
I would caution against taking that route and wanting people to join the CDF and pay the Linux Foundation to join the CDF and then having to pay an additional fee to join Jenkins. Because part of what we're trying to do is establish value for the CDF. And I want to leverage Jenkins, but I don't want to diminish the CDF, right? And because
no, and I'm just suggesting a different kind of membership.
Okay.
We have premier members, we have silver members. Why can't we have Jenkins members?
And we could do that. I'm not saying we can't do that, but I know that me being an end user, if you guys turn around and say that's what we're doing, I'll probably turn to my company and say, yeah, no, we don't need to do this. Because it isn't about adding a bunch of fees, it's about extending the community to get more people wanting to pay. And I think that's the key difference in what I'm talking about is like, I get how that will bring in more funds. But the other problem that the CDF has, and that we've seen in the past, in the recent past, is that we need to create value as the CDF to bring in members to the Linux Foundation and that extent first. And then we can think about like, okay, how can we tag things onto that? If we're going to say what we want to do is charge a Jenkins fee, then you'll lose more CDF members who just go,
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I don't, because we have 6 end users, right? End user members. We have 6. They paid to be an end user, right? They paid as an end user.
Yes.
So couldn't we just have another kind of end user to encourage more people who are focused on Jenkins? So yeah, we have 6. Hey, that's pretty good, right? We have 6 end user members. How can we make it 30 end user members?
Yes, that is.
And maybe we have a class that's CDF end user members or CDF Jenkins end user members.
Okay.
So I think
keep your mind open about it. What ways can we bring end users in? How can we get them excited? And oftentimes it's all about branding and an alignment. Maybe they can't align themselves to the CDF, but they can definitely align themselves to Jenkins. And we're burying Jenkins underneath the conversation of the CDF. All I'm suggesting is how could we potentially create a user group level, membership level, that was specifically to Jenkins and have some working groups that they would be invited to.
So couldn't we just take the existing end user council and admit that one of its topics is Jenkins, just like one of its topics could be each of the products, and then we've used the end user council or the end user concept we already have without having to make it specific to any one project. That enriches CDF. It doesn't spread the concept that there is something special for Jenkins inside CDF. It's rather that by being part of CDF, you get Jenkins plus.
And because what I'm arguing, and I'm suggesting you kind of mull over in your head, is that the Jenkins community is massive, and it deserves some special attention from somebody. And there's no reason why the CDF shouldn't be who gives the Jenkins community that extra love.
Yeah.
And that concept, I think I'm great with. I think I like
Me
that.
too. But I don't think it should come with a bill. That's what I'm
Right.
saying. I don't think that
The-
the
the-
extra
the-
attention should come with a bill.
What does it cost for the end users? End users have to pay a bill, right?
Meaning
Or is
that
it just free? End
No.
users are free?
CDF end user membership certainly does have a fee. I don't know
Yes.
I don't know
It
the
would be
fee.
the same fee, but they just would be
Right.
joining the Jenkins end user community, and there would be a bunch of stuff that they would be supporting specifically around Jenkins. That's all I'm suggesting. It's just marketing, guys. It's not anything more than that. It's just marketing. Maybe they want to have their name underneath the Jenkins end users, and their logos are there because they're proud of using Jenkins. They don't align with the CDF emotionally, but they do align with Jenkins emotionally.
I think that's achievable just from, if it's a marketing thing where we're marketing like a end user member kind of drive, a general membership kind of drive.
Correct.
And then
Around
that
the Jenkins
drive is
community.
coming, yeah, but I wouldn't label it in-house as anything different than any other CDF member, but that the drive is that they are taking pride in their Jenkins membership. That is, I think, more of, I wouldn't single them out as something where it's like, a separate thing, or a level of membership that they don't get the benefits of all of the membership. But we can definitely call them out as a member drive in that manner, and have merch around that drive that says, hey, I'm, a Jenkins CDF member, and like it really.
Exactly. You just said it. I'm a Jenkins CDF member, and that's
No,
what I'm
that's fine,
suggesting.
but it's
Yeah,
not
it's
like
an
the
end
only
user
place.
community
Right,
that they
it's
pay for.
acknowledging that but I mean, in the sense that we're acknowledging how they came into the CDF, not creating a new membership within the CDF itself. That's the key difference that I want to
I
call out.
I would say that the creating that special group, people like to be part of things. I would suggest, if you're really looking at building this community, is to read People Powered. It's by Jono Bacon, and he'll talk about aligning to their emotional state and their emotional interests. So, if you really want to disrupt this, if you really want to make sure the CDF is here for the long run, I'm just suggesting that we give the Jenkins community a whole lot of love. And one of those ways is to give them a place that they can call their own, that they have lost because CloudBeast doesn't give that to them anymore. And the CD Foundation, while we support Jenkins, we are not leveraging it. And what I'm suggesting is the CD Foundation look at leveraging that community and giving them their own place there for an end user group that they can call their own, because I believe they will show up. But if it's just part of the CDF, they don't have an emotional connection to the CDF. Most of the Jenkins community I talk to, they don't even know what the CDF is. They'll be like, oh yeah. They're not emotionally connected to it. But if the CDF had something for the Jenkins community and we reached out specifically to them, I believe you would get some and maybe some phone calls and a study might be useful on this. But whatever it is, we're really missing out on taking advantage of this massive community of members who love this product. And that's all I'll say about it. But don't underestimate the power of emotion and the need to belong and have someplace where you can belong. And that's what builds community. Where's my People Powered book? Yeah, read People Powered. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, but Jenkins, I think, yeah, maybe as you said, a lot of people is not connected to the CDF emotionally, so they don't know about the CDF, and I think it would be good to find ways to make them aware of what the CDF is doing for the Jenkins community. But also, yeah, we need to provide value that is visible by them. I mean, if CDF is hosting, is providing a vendor neutral place for the Jenkins project to live in. And I think this is valuable for the Jenkins community. If CDF was not there, there would be no such place for the Jenkins project, right? So, but I don't think, yeah.
And I agree, and I'm not disagreeing with that, guys, but I'm also trying to think through, well, if we're doing that for Jenkins, then why aren't we doing it for all of our communities? Because there's people in all of our communities that will, and when I say all of, I mean all of the projects communities that will rally around that project. I know like Tecton has a lot of people who use Tecton. Spinnaker has a lot of people that use the product, and so I think tying into the emotional bond that people have for the projects in general is what I'm getting, is my takeaway of this conversation. It's like, yes, okay, we get that for Jenkins, but we can also find members the same way in all of these groups. And how do we bond to that and get that to everyone and give all of the projects the ability to do that within their groups?
Hey, well, if it works for Jenkins, maybe it should be repeated, right?
Right.
If it works for Jenkins and brings money into the foundation so it can stay afloat, then maybe that is a really good way to approach it. I think the Jenkins community would be where I would start, though.
The other thing I think that many of you mentioned, I mean, we should bring experts to the CDF, expertise here, whether it's for academia or for end users. And I totally agree with that. I think that that's very important. One question that I don't know the answer to in my mind, how do we bring the conversation here happening in this community? Because I think there are a lot of people using Jenkins or Tecton or CD events or any of the CDF projects, but they're not using them standalone. They're using them with plus X other projects. And those X other projects are not in the CDF. So I think a lot of the conversations that involve tools that belong to the, or that they're hosted at the CDF are actually happening somewhere else. And so how do we provide values for this conversation to happen in this community, to get people to have join the CDF, have the conversations here, and bring more.
No, I think that's going to be, that is the
Last, yeah.
challenge, right? Because, oh wait, am I on mute? Okay, all right. I think that is the challenge because we are having folks in the CNCF going, oh, I want to use CD events. And the CD events conversation is not going to be just in the CDF, but we have to lead it and we have to show that we're leading it, which is why, going to have these end user conversations about what we're trying to do with other end user corporations that would benefit this and then say, hey, come and join us, or at least come financially support it, is important to understand that this is where the research is being done. And that tie to academia kind of creates that statement in a way that's concrete. They can see it, that is happening. That's what we're focused on, and having these conversations with other companies, because it's not just going to be, hey, we want to use the thing, but how are we moving through the tracks and promises of what CD events is supposed to be. And one of the conversations that I would, probably through Ben, but one of the conversations that you, I, and Emil should be having is, am I seeing the stages of that correctly? Because when I look at CD events, I'm thinking, okay, it's visualization, it's process analytics is the next phase of that once we get the visualization portion of it. And then after that, it's value stream processing and then interoperability. And it's those 4 steps that we have to progress the concept through to make it efficient and usable for the community. Does that sound like I'm on the right track, or am I way off? And how you're envisioning that going forward?
Yeah, no, that sounds sounds good. Definitely, I mean, those are the areas that we are looking at. I think what happens first might also depend on what people are asking
Yeah.
for first.
Yeah.
right? But and I see Mark has his hand raised.
So on the CD events topic, I've got a rather specific thing that I offered CD events as a possible Google Summer of Code project for the Jenkins project idea for the Jenkins project. But I did that sort of on blind hope that we would find people who could mentor that, because I'm not aware of anybody who could mentor it. So maybe Dadizi, you and I need to have a conversation, or Dadizi, you and I and Andrea, about who the players are that are in CD events right now, because I'm not well connected to it, but I've made this straw proposal, this rough proposal that we should do a Google Summer of Code project, but I have no mentor. And so I need to find the people. Maybe it's Jer McMahon, maybe it's somebody else, but I suspect there are people who are doing it, and Mark Waite has failed to connect with them as part of this Google Summer of Code project idea. So next stop for me there is either we will drop the idea and say, hey, we're not going to attempt to do it because I don't have mentors, or we'll find mentors, and then we can run the Google Summer of Code project under the umbrella of the Jenkins project's GSOC effort already.
Yeah, I mean, I can find you mentors.
Oh, good. Okay.
I'm surprised at how many talks that I've seen. Like, I'm on the program committee for the Open Summit, the CDCon portion of it, and I was surprised at how many talks I saw that were related to CD events.
Oh, good. Okay.
And
So
it wasn't people in this group. And that's what caught me off guard. It's other companies who are starting to tap into it and go, oh, look what you can do. This stuff is cool. And so, yeah, but most of that is visualization, because that's, when you have all of these events and you can kind of like go, okay, I can show you all of them. The links proposal that I think will help us tie everything together. So we've, hopefully we'll get that in soon and start to use it. And that'll add the part where we can do the process analytics and look at it as you go fan in, fan out across organizations, at least from an enterprise standpoint, because that's and I apologize for that, but most of my vision is going to always be like, how does this get to an enterprise level? But yeah, no, definitely have people who can do the mentoring. Been super surprised that, that it may include some of these folks that are doing talks or want to do talks. And I definitely want to reach out to them, even if they don't make the cut, and say, hey, what are you doing? How can we get involved? How can we, engage with you, at least from a blog post or something about what you're doing, to give that some visibility, right? Because it is important that people see that it does do what we expect it to do, and that it can be moved forward.
thank you. Yeah. So if you're willing, my apologies. So it reminds, maybe one of the topics we should put on technical oversight committee is, particularly during the ramp up to Google Summer of Code, an overview of things like that. I should have mentioned this months ago, right? Shame on me. It should have been mentioned months ago that we've got this idea, we put it out there. Very good. Thank you. Yeah. So if we can connect together, if there are potential mentors, I'm very much interested in them.
Sorry, Mark. The topic for
So topic for next
meeting?
time, Google Summer of Code.
Okay.
Or using, maybe we should put it this way, using Google Summer of Code most effectively for CDF. Because there are things that I do in Jenkins Google Summer of Code efforts that are very specific to Jenkins, that aren't CDF relevant, but CD events is very relevant to multiple projects, right? And putting something under the Jenkins GSOC umbrella, where we're gonna run GSOC anyway, right? And if we've got CD events hiding under there, not hiding, if we got it working under there, it has good potential, or better potential, to be accepted as a project by GSOC and run. So that was all,
Sounds
Andrea.
good.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Did. Thanks. And yeah, so the CD events plugin that exists today, that was developed by Fidelity. So definitely, have some conversation with Jer and see if they're interested in mentoring, because I think that would definitely be a good starting point. All right. So I think, great conversation. I'm sure I didn't capture everything, or most of it in the notes, but at least we have the recording, so that's good. And soon enough, there would be an AI that does this better than me in terms of capturing notes. Anything else we want to discuss? I think we have a lot of ideas, and yeah. And anything else we want to discuss on these? Maybe that easy one ask from my side, after you start having conversation, if you have specific ideas about how this group can help, please do let us know, bring them to this community. Cool.
Yeah, I'll put it in Slack, in our channel in Slack for the TOC.
Great, thanks. Okay, we have 10 minutes left. One thing I wanted to ask this group is about last year about project updates and SIG updates. So last year for project updates, we had a presentation running in this meeting. And I wanted to ask what people thought. Is that something we want to do again for 2024? Do we want to have presentations here? Or do we want to simply have the project sending us a slide, maybe based on a template? Or we want to ask them to have a blog post or anything else?
I
think it's
actually,
important.
I
Yeah.
enjoyed those presentations from the projects when we did it. I thought it was really good to be able to talk to them, and have face-to-face time with them.
Okay.
Agreed. And for me, at least as a presenter, the act of preparing for the presentation caused me to reflect on the health and state of the project. So it was healthy for me, both as an audience member and as a presenter from a project.
And if there's something specific we want from the projects, I think we should give them a template.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. So we could continue with the presentation. Provide a template for the presentation. I think it makes sense. And maybe something we could do this year is to, once the presentation happens, is to ask Roxanne to write like a 10 lines blog post with link to the recording to kind of promote it and make it more accessible. Would that make sense? Or
Yeah, I think making it easy to find, that would be great. Whether it's gonna be a blog post or if it's just something on a page that has all the projects, the latest status updates or whatever. Either way would work.
Yeah, we've used a technique where our recorded meetings are posted to YouTube eventually, and then we post to community.jenkins.io, a discourse site, a link to the recording and to the notes. But for me, that discourse is really convenient. I like it, but we could do it whatever technique you want. Blog post is fine. Community.jenkins.io has worked for me because it's easy enough. Right now, that's very Jenkins specific. And so I don't think that's where we should put the CDF things, but when I talk about Jenkins, I may well put it there. It's a good thing to say, hey, look, here's Mark Waite blathering on about Jenkins once again, and in his blathering, you can learn these things.
thanks. Yeah, I think the recordings are on YouTube for the TOC as well. There is a playlist on the CDF. Okay, yeah, but I think the sound in Azure, I think we shall continue doing this. So I'll make a call for presentation like I did last year, asking to the various project representative if they want to come to this meeting and present. So we have a schedule set up. Cool. Yeah, so I also had added like a section topics for next time or next times. So we have using GSOC most effectively. So thanks, Mark. Other ideas that I had was maybe we could do a 2023 retrospective. That's we had one at the GB in terms of TOC. And then another thing we could do is 2024 planning, even though I think we started that today or having some very good discussions about that topic today, in terms of where we want to be and where we want to go as CDF. But if you have ideas for topics for next time, feel free to add them here or to the agenda directly, so we can discuss them. And anything else anyone would like to bring up in the last 5 minutes? Okay, well, great to see everyone. Have a great week, and until next time.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.